Yeah. Welcome to the Indigenous Heathens Podcast. My name is Incredible Javier.
And I'm Yahaira.
And today we want to talk about abuse. And for people like us, we came up, I'm sure there was some sort of abuse in both of our households growing up. And it's something that tends to, I say, would follow people, especially if it's not addressed. So I have a list of stats here I wanted to go over, which I thought were pretty crazy. One is 38% of respondents, and this is according to Keely T in 2006, uh, reported sexual abuse of their landlords. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. Yeah. Among mothers with children experience homelessness, more than 80% have previously experienced domestic abuse. That's fucking nuts right there. Domestic abuse shelters across the country, 84% reported that they needed help finding affordable housing. That has to do with homelessness and also abuse. So it seems like there's this, hold on, one more. 58% stated that at least one tenant reported sexual assault by landlord. That's fucking nuts. So it seems to me that, one thing that ties into abuse is homelessness. And often when it comes to women, when there's no place for them to go, a lot of the times they'll end up homeless or just deal with the abuse, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a reality that a lot of women encounter or see. And, obviously, going back to people that are justice involved, I grew up in the Los Angeles, juvenile system. And many other times there, too, most of the girls that I encountered, and let me be clear, I'm not saying that everybody, but a large percentage of the women and young ladies that I've encountered were abused of some sort. And most of the time it was like, physical or sexual. And it was outrageous numbers as we're seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. On the boys side, the male side also the same thing. You'll see a high number of people in there that deal with, and a lot of them are. It's crazy because a lot of them are willing to talk about the physical abuse, but there were a handful of people who basically told me off to the sides or wouldn't admit it to everybody else, and I would have put their business out there. It's their story to tell, but they had encountered sexual abuse. And among boys, and when they're becoming men, it seems like they're less inclined to talk about it because of the like machismo aspect and shit like that. And I just think it's crazy because like, you see it on both sides where you have young children acting out because they don't know how to process this abuse that they went through.
Yeah. On the female side, you know what? I've growing up, I've encountered many forms of abuse. One of them being sexual, and I never spoke about it because I think to a certain extent, and not to get all personal, but you feel like your worth goes down in a way. Of course, I've grown and I've learned. I love who I am, but for a long time, I struggled with that, with just knowing that I was vulnerable to certain people and they took advantage. And then, of course, growing up in a Mexican Catholic household, if you're not a virgin or if you're, not this like squeaky clean person, then you're devalued as a young lady, because I was a little girl still. So that was already embedded. And it's a fucked up way to grow. And then other syndromes come from that. So, yeah.
You have that anger that you're dealing with too, and then this low sense of self-worth, like you were saying, and it's just fucked up. One of my boys that I've interviewed, homie, I knew this fool. I didn't know him too well growing up, but I've heard of him, a lot. And I met him, actually met him in juvenile hall, which is pretty crazy. And I was the boy and shit, and I didn't know that he was sexually abused growing up. And he told his story on my channel, and he said a few things that tripped me out where I was like, damn. He says, I didn't know what anyone would think about me. I didn't want people to think that I was gay. I started questioning what's going on with my sexuality. Does that make me gay and shit like that, right? And there's just a lot of questions that a young man would have. And he also said, when you're going through pain, and you're a kid on the streets, you can find other people going through that same pain. You can just identify something with it. And I just like really tripped out. I had no idea that that's something he was going through. And I would imagine there are tons of other, I know females for a fact, but I know also males that aren't willing to speak up on that. And it's really sad because they had to bottle a lot of that in. You being somebody who had to bottle that in, or you didn't have to, but you chose to bottle it in, you didn't know how to deal with it. How did that feel, holding that inside and not being able to let that out?
I think from that I developed like what they call the Machiavellian syndrome, where you want to take control back. So because you never had that control, you feel me? So you want to, that's I started acting out. I was hurt, so I was going to hurt other people. I just rebelled, but I rebelled in a very violent and I got involved in gangs and everything from wanting to be accepted, because at home I didn't feel too accepted. However, I think what affected me more, like growing up, was the verbal abuse that I received. So with the sexual abuse that happened, even with the physical, because I used to get my ass beat,
Yeah.
It's something that I kind of processed. Like when I was busted, when I went through the juvenile hall system, like you just don't want to even mention that you've been abused, because they want to put you on meds, or right away I can see the stigma too behind like a male, because you do, it's kind of like your masculinity, your manhood, and then they're telling you that you're fucking crazy because somebody else that was fucking sick preyed on you. So I encountered a lot of that in the halls, not wanting to speak about it because I knew that they were gonna put me like on some Prozac and shit, and I was already fucked up and didn't want to get more fucked up. So I just bottled it in. I think when I would hear people speak about it, I just learned to kind of normalize it. Like, okay, like we've all been a little raped, which is a fucked up, demented way of thinking.
Yeah.
But you encounter it so much in that environment that it becomes not normal, but it's like, oh, okay, we've all been through this, which is really not normal, but
Yeah.
that's the way that I processed all of that. I think that even in actuality, what kind of fucked me up was the verbal abuse, growing up and people telling me, oh, well, you're ugly, or you're never going to be anything. Or I think that's what fucked me up, because, for a long time, I doubted myself. Like, am I really good at doing this? Or I always question my shit, or you just, I'm still, I'm learning the process, and I grow each and every day. But that's what really got to me along the way, and led me to many toxic behaviors and shit like that.
Damn. You ever read that book, the Four Agreements?
No.
There's this part in the Four Agreements which is pretty trippy. And when I read it when I was in YA, and it said like, if life is about a bunch of concepts, right? So, and you take these concepts and you apply them to yourself. And if everybody's telling you that you're a bad kid, that you're going to take those concepts and you're going to embrace everything that comes with those concepts. So you're going to say, this is what a bad kid is. That's me. And this is what a bad kid does. So this is what I have to do. And I really related to that, because you're right. There were a lot of people, for me, not my family, but just a lot of other people outside always looked at me a certain way, because, I was a child of teenage gang members. I mean, they so basically me and my parents grew up together. We were at times often homeless, like had nowhere to go, and they looked at us a certain way. And I didn't feel like I belonged with certain people, and certain kids would look at me a certain way, certain teachers would look at me a certain way, and they spoke to me a certain way. And I was just like, fuck you guys. And these are my people. You know what I mean? I'm gonna roll with the streets. When you find people that relate to you, it's easier to gravitate towards them.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to you in the sense of I was born to a 17-year-old girl. My dad left when I was 3 years old. And I still remember the day he left. It's a trip how far back my memory goes. But so when my mom got here, because my mom came from Mexico, right? So we were already like, what's the word? Yeah, like you said, we were already being looked at a certain way. We were already less than, just because my mom's not married. She's a single mom. she's now in a foreign country where she's trying to navigate how to even get a job or, get a bus to, to go look for a job and things like that. So yeah, it's stigmatized. That's what I was looking. So yeah, from a very early age, I felt that stigma already. Yeah.
Damn. So, there's a lot of things that build on to the initial abuse that you go through, like society and other things built other things on top of it to make you even more angry and act out even more. And I don't know, growing up, did you ever see anywhere where there was a healthy place to express it? Because like you said, even when I was in jail, I had to talk to counselors as part of my first parole board. They said that was one of the things, right? I went and I talked to the therapist, and just like you said, bam, right away, they want to throw you on meds. And my boys told me, hey, don't take that shit, fool. That shit fucks you up.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, all right, cool. But it's like, I've never been anywhere where you can go anywhere and speak, like now therapy, yeah, but before that, where you could speak openly about your situations and not have to worry about any kind of like real repercussions.
The first time that I was able to speak openly was to my mother. And please keep in mind that for a long time, me and my mother had a very toxic relationship, and I was angry and I blamed her for a lot of things. But now as a woman thinking back, I was like, well, God damn, she was only 17 years old trying to make it, and but when I actually sat there and had like an authentic conversation with her, and we were like relatable, and that's when I felt that I got the most like healing. And of course, healing doesn't happen overnight, and it's a process, but just being able to relate to someone so close to me, and so because I love my mother, she's a role model, she's this strong woman, she's someone that I look up to, and being able to sit there and actually just let everything out, and her tell me like, you know what, I understand, and this is what I encountered. And that for me was a moment of like peace.
Yeah.
And I've made peace with many things. In going back to like the psychiatrist and the psychologist, when I was in the youth authority was the first time that I seen a psychologist, and she was great. But of course, I was still very immature to fully want to expose, right, to become vulnerable to this stranger. So
you're still tough girl, Yahaira at that time.
Yeah, because you learn to person like that being tough is gonna, you confuse anger and being like tough in all the wrong ways with being strong, when sometimes being vulnerable and being able to be relatable to somebody else is what makes you strong. Being able to own your shit and still keep pushing, But of course, at the time, I didn't see things that way. Any type of weakness, you were already weak and considered a lame. So I figured not to. It was better for me to just keep it to myself and suppress those feelings. And then one of the doctors there was sleeping with some of the girls. So,
fuck.
I feel like some of the people too within the youth authority, and not just the youth authority, like throughout the juvenile system, some of them are straight up predators too, and they're there to prey. Most people that like kids will work with kids, so that like kids and that want to prey on kids is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of that going on in the California Youth Authority.
There was that, and even in the halls, I've encountered where people, they abuse their power, and that's when you see where they will abuse children. I remember the first time I was like really pepper sprayed hardcore, because I've been pepper sprayed before, but like quick OC warning, psh, and then you just kind of get down and shit, right? But this is the first time where they really fucking got me. It was in Central Juvenile Hall. It was my, like, I'm not gonna say the abuse I went through wasn't my fault, but the situation I put myself into definitely my fault. You know what I mean? So I'm in the gym. Remember at Central they had the gym when they're fucking transferring people. So I'm in the gym. They put me towards the front, and some cat hits me up. He's an enemigo of mine. So he says his neighborhood. I diss his neighborhood. He disses me back. So I walk over there and fucking start just getting down, chunking him with them. Yeah, we start chunking him and shit, and I get fucking sprayed. And I get down thinking it's over. Fuck it, I got sprayed. They're gonna send me to the infirmary. Hell nah, she was far from over. The motherfucking staff, scrawny little Chicano fucking punk ass fool. He grabs me by my feet and drags me into the shower area, and basically just fucked with me. He's like, don't rub that shit off of your eyes. I'm like, man, shit fucking burns. And then every time I touch my eyes, he would spray me even more. And he kept me there for a while. And I was like, I'm not lying, maybe for 10 fucking years, I said, if I see that fool, I'm gonna smoke his ass. For real. Maybe I probably had like 2 kids by the point I said, I'm gonna leave it alone. If I see him, I'm not gonna. But I kept that shit in the back of my mind, like, I'm gonna smoke this motherfucker if I ever see him, because I was that fucking angry with it. And I think, a lot of that anger, you can't get to him, so you're gonna try to get to other people. And like you said, you see other people who are in a place of authority, and you don't trust them. You're like, man, fuck these fools. They're all the same.
Yeah, and that's very important. I feel like I know that now, in order to work in the juvenile hall, you got to have some sort of degree. But even with, like, when we're looking at LAPD, and please keep in mind, I'm not saying that all cops are bad, that all staff, or I'm not generalizing everybody, but there's a large percentage, because I feel like they need to be, I'll go back to what I was saying. I got ADHD. So I feel that they need to be more careful and really filter through the people that they're letting in.
Yeah.
Because just as you mentioned, like, what protocol was supposed to be is to restrain someone, and then of course take on, like, the mace or whatever it may be to stop a fight or whatever it was. But people were not getting restrained. People were getting fucking beat the fuck up, and their lights just knocked out. There was this chick, this little girl. She wasn't a little girl, but she was very, very little, very petite. And there was this lady, this African-American lady that used to work at RS. And that lady had a bad rep for being violent. And this lady was like 6 feet tall, carried weight on her, and she would just fuck everybody up. One thing I learned very early on is to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It was to shut the fuck up, because nobody was going to come and rescue you there, and that little girl, man, she did her wrong. Like, that little girl got, like, mopped the fuck up. The girl lost consciousness, and I don't think she was even taken to the infirmary.
Oh,
I think, everybody would just kind of cover up everybody else's fuck ups, right? Because that's child abuse. And then I know I mentioned Shorty from 18th Street before. She was a really good friend of mine. The first time I met her was she was getting refiled on from Camp Scott, and this was like the first time I had ever been incarcerated. So I was sitting there folding the HRO clothes.
Yeah.
And when I seen her, her face was like black and blue and rearranged. And she was like, hey, shoot me some clothes. And I shot them to her. And then we started to talk about what happened. But it doesn't look like she was restrained. It looks like they literally
fucked her
lumped her up and fucked her up. And a lot of that. And those are just two memorable, like, something that I remember. But it went on so much, or like staff letting you run into somebody else's room and beat them up. Like, sure, we laugh at it and it was funny. But in reality, now looking back, I don't think there's anything funny about that.
Oh, that's not at all. Yeah.
How is that even rehabilitation when you're allowing 2 kids? It's more like gladiator fucking training,
Yeah, those are children, and that's what they I think that's what they forgot a lot of the times. There was another time too where again, I was in the wrong. I ran into some cat's room. So we get down, right? And I'm getting the better of him and shit. And I guess he kind of like was pissed off about it, because so when the staff were leaving, he fucking rushes me. I'm like, Dick, you fucking jackass, what are you doing? And that caught the attention of the staff. And they went in there like, what are your guys' names? And I gave him a fake name. Because I was not supposed to be in that room. I told him the other guy's name. There was who we switched rooms with. And then he said his name. And he's, you don't look like Quintanilla. So he's looking at me and shit. And he gets another staff. And they come back. Is this Quintanilla? They're like, nah, that's not him. And they're like, shit. So they pulled us out the room. And they tell us what happened. And I was like, fuck, I don't know. And they told the other guy, what happened? And he fucking like he goes off. It's his room. Now keep in mind, I ran in his room. So basically he could play like fucking, I don't know. This I mean, I'm in my room. I don't know what the fuck he's doing here. And it could have been on me, but he's like, man, fuck you. I ain't gonna tell you guys shit. And fuck, they beat the fuck out of him. Like they fucked him up. And he was a scrawny little guy. And these motherfuckers were huge, like 6'2", 6'3", and they're like fucking, they're big. They fucked him up. They grabbed him, like put his arm in back of his like, and they fucking lifted him up like that. I was like, oh fuck, and they just like threw him across the room. I was just like, damn, they were fucking his ass up, and I was like, oh shit, I'm next. And when they came up to me, they said, get to your fucking room. And I just like you said,
You ran.
Shut the fuck up, and I went over there, yeah, because I was like, these motherfuckers like ain't playing, and it's crazy because these are the people that were put in charge of us. And then the youth authorities, like I think the halls is pretty bad. I think it's worse than the youth authority.
I have to agree with you. The halls is just horrible, man. Like, you know what's another thing I encountered in the halls too at the time? I think now it's known as sexual trafficking. So now you're recognized as a victim, not as a criminal. But you know, many of my stays there in the halls, many of the women, not women, sorry, young ladies at the time were being brought in for prostitution.
Oh shit.
And many, I mean, obviously they were being sexually exploited. And even being a kid, I would tell myself like, I don't think this girl should be here, you know, but and often some of those girls, they had a mouth on them because obviously they've been on the track, they're on the streets, they got a certain demeanor to them. And they would, aside from being, exploited out here sexually, now they're in the halls and they're encountering violence from the staff there. And I, looking back now, I was like, God damn, it was a fucking vicious cycle. Like there was there was no like no type of control. The staff were not held accountable for any of it either. And you know what, some of that's still going on. And it's always like, I always felt like it was the staff who kind of got like bullied on as kids, or maybe that was not the case. Maybe they were abused too at home. And and
that's too much fucking anger.
Yeah.
Too much.
Like how the fuck can you hate a kid that you don't even know?
Yeah.
You know?
You know what's crazy? I'm looking back now thinking about certain things that I went through. I remember when I was in the halls, I used to always try to, rap to all the females. And there was one time when I was in the infirmary, I was trying to rap to some girl, like, hey, what's up, man? What's your name and shit like that, right? And I'm talking to her, and she said she's from Vegas. And I said, what the fuck you doing down here? And she's like, oh, I had a few jobs I had to do down here. So, she's basically like letting me know what's going on. And I was just tripping out like, oh shit, there's probably gonna be easy pickings and shit, right? But looking back, I was just like, fuck, like now thinking about what you're saying, I didn't put two and two together. Like she was being trafficked.
Yeah.
She was being trafficked, and she's in jail with me. I'm in there for robbery. So I did some stupid shit to end up being in there. She's in there for being exploited. And that's some fucked up shit, man.
Yeah. Definitely. Like one thing about me, I've encountered the places and ended up in the places that I've ended up because I chose to partake in certain behaviors. That was just, I wasn't a victim. I had it coming. But some of these girls in there really were just victims of what they had going on out here. And I used to just trip out on it. Or another thing that we touched on, a lot of those kids too were coming from the foster care system. So it was just like the government, and not the government, but whatever agency, just kind of kicking them off to like the juvenile hall, Kirby. A lot of them came from McLaren Hall. McLaren Hall was a fucking beast, man. I've met people that were there, and some of male friends, and the shit they encountered in there, it was like rape and no one ever talks about that. I've never even, like, not that I deserve an apology or nothing like that, but they do. And nobody's ever came out and said, oh, by the way, we shut this facility down because of A, B, and C. That's, everybody just hush, hush.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. It's crazy because McLaren Hall's in my neighborhood. I've seen it. People used to try to escape from there. Sometimes we catch people slipping and shit, you know, fucking, but like people try to escape from there. And I had no idea what the hell was really going. Even people that I knew that were in there never wanted to really talk about it. I said, "What
One of
goes on in there?" And they're like, "Ah, it's fucked up, man." And then that's all they would really say.
a really good friend of mine told me that when he was there, he was just a kid. Um, there was a little African American girl. That's how he remembers her. He doesn't remember her name or anything like that. He says that when the night staff would come on, that little girl would run and ask him, like, can I please sleep with you? You know, and this little girl was like 6 or 7. So they were young kids.
Yeah,
And they were already encountering this type of stuff. So, you know, it's like you grow up, you know, some people brag about not trusting anyone, but I don't think that's a good way to live. Like,
no, not at
kind
all.
of fucked up not being able to trust someone. But then again, it's like, well, these kids are already probably, you know, no mom or dad at home in the foster care system. Even there's abuse. So who do they go to?
Yeah,
You know? And
yeah.
that's when a
The
lot
lack
of
of
us end up on the streets.
and the lack of trust is justified at that point because everybody who they've come across has done them dirty and has given them a reason to not trust them.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, many agencies too, just like many medical like facilities and stuff like that. Like if your pay is good, you don't want to rock that boat. You feel me? Your bills, whatever it is, you're set. So why even open up Pandora's box like that? Why jeopardize your job? And I feel like a lot of the people who work there, the adults that were supposed to be vigilant of this shit, were just kind of like, oh wow, it has nothing to do with me. And that's fucked up when we put people in authority that don't deserve to be in authority, that are, you know, because to me, if you conceal a crime like that, then you're just as fucking guilty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And that's what people were like, oh, not all staff were fucked up or why. I'm pretty sure that's true. There were actually I've encountered a few good staff, but a lot of them they would, you know, they would do some fucked up shit. They would hide fucking like you said, they would hide what was going on. They wouldn't report it. Um, and it just went under the table. And we're not gonna snitch.
Because
So
we ain't
it's
snitches.
yeah. So we're like, nah, fuck that shit. Like, and you would see people take off on staff and slice staff or do whatever they can like to get the retaliation, and it's just a ongoing cycle. Now you are being fucking sent somewhere else now to another facility, to another you know, possibly even prison because you were victimized and you fucking don't want to snitch, you don't want to do this, and it's just crazy. It's just like an ongoing cycle.
Yeah, it's a fucking beast, man. Yeah, I knew a lot of people that would take flight on the staff, you know, because even sitting there, like the staff would get in your face, like, "Oh fuck you, you're a lame bitch." Like, first of all, you don't refer to anyone as a bitch. Now, imagine a 30-something-year-old woman or man talking to a 15-year-old like that already is dealing with being incarcerated, but on top, you know, just that's the least of their worries. Everything else that they got going on mentally, and even out here on the streets, and you're sitting there talking to someone and you don't expect that person to take flight on you. Like, there's only so much a human being can handle. Now when you're in a setting like that, and I don't condone it, but at the same time, it's like we need to look into getting people a little more like educated, and not only educated, but that are disciplined. Because an adult just sitting there, or remember they used to blow up your hood and
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you
And
know,
they think it's funny because you're not gonna do nothing to them.
yeah.
Fucking
And it's
bastards, yeah.
like, and when they did do something about that, you know, they act like the victims. Well, you were, you know, antagonizing the behavior. So, but of course, you're the one that's busted. You're the criminal, and you're the one that that probably deserved it. You
Yeah,
know, in
yeah.
their eyes, at least.
No, I agree with you 100% because it's like I don't condone like violence or them taking off, but I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
Like I understand the anger, the rage, and a lot of it's not. I don't know. I wonder like maybe the therapy sessions could have been good, like you said, but we were too immature to take it seriously, or was it just insufficient? I don't know. I'm kind of torn at times because at times I think like sometimes they're just reading off of fucking packets. A lot of times just reading off of packets. So I don't know. You know, I'm kind of torn with that shit too. Like What was it? Was it us or was it them? Was it a mixture of both?
I think it was a lot of mediocrity on their
Mhm.
end. I think that I think it could have been us too, because well, at least for like for me, growing up, mental health, we never spoke about that, or it wasn't a thing. I don't give a fuck how depressed you are, you still got to get up. There was
Yeah,
no depression in my house,
yeah,
it was non-existent. So you learn to look at mental health as a taboo, maybe even, so you don't want to be that crazy person, and or I always like so yeah, you felt to well, I did, at least. I can't speak for everybody. To just even take that shit serious, especially from staff that are like, how the fuck am I gonna take you serious when I know you're messing with homegirl down there? Like,
yeah,
you're a fucking hypocrite. And I think a lot of that happened. And I just but don't get me wrong, there was very great people working there. Like as I mentioned before, one of the teachers that worked there, I just liked his approach and the way that he was authentic, and he was there to teach, and he was there to try to make you, because you got to take ownership of all your shit, and try to cut through all of that. But Hank Wadsworth, but there was an authenticity to that man.
yeah.
That man was there to help. And I think too, we can be as fucked up as we choose to be, but when someone's authentic, when somebody is real, and when somebody is there for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm reminded of is talking about the staff and just the way they did things, and looking back, I'm like, damn, that's fucked up, man. There was this kid. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was he was a little older than me at the time. Probably about the same age, and he used to wet the bed every night. Every night people clown him, pissy boy and shit like that, right? And the staff, but they'd kind of be fucked up about it, because instead of like figuring out something, they kept him there. And not only that, but they said, if you guys fuck up, we're gonna put you on the rack next to him. You guys gonna wake up smelling piss all night. And we're like, fuck that shit. Like, it was a punishment to sleep next to him. Like, that's a form of abuse right there, because that's emotional abuse. Like, they're fucking with this kid. Like, instead of dealing with it, like, hey, we should really seek some kind of professional help for this kid, because he is still wetting the bed at 16 years old. We have to figure out what's going on with him. They're like, if you don't behave, we're gonna move you next to him. Like, what the fuck is that?
It makes me so sad for that kid. He's probably a man now, but you know what that does to his self-esteem, to his self-image? Like you said, it's damn, that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
On our end, some of the girls would come in with like STDs, and the staff would like announce that shit to people, or like, hey, Mrs. Yeast infection, or hey, Mrs. Yeah, hey, Mrs. HIV. Like, HIV is something that from a very early age, I've learned to like not clown people, or you see somebody who has some sort of like what is it that I'm trying to say? Some sort of like barrier, whether it's physical, whether it's a disability, whether it's whatever it may be. You don't do that to them, because life and health is not guaranteed to anybody, and so I thought that was really really untasteful, even as a thug or whatever you wanted to call me. I was just like, damn, that's some fucked up shit to be putting homegirl out on blast like that.
That's a HIPAA violation, like a motherfucker too. But
Yeah.
what's crazy is I was a victim of that shit one time.
Wow.
So I was in Sylmore, and they kept the infirmary. The guys were on one side, the girls were on one side. And I'm being an asshole, just doing stupid shit. I was kind of a dick when I was a kid, and I was like, I get so many chicks on the streets. I was doing this and doing that, right? And I'm just going on and on, because the people are egging me on, like, what else, homie, and shit like that, right? So I'm going on, and I kind of see I'm getting the attention of the girls on the other side, and I'm just keep on going. And some guy comes. He was the infirmary guy. I don't know if it's the nurse or whatever, but he's like, "What's your name?" I said, "Raygoza." He's like, "You know what you're here for, right?" I was like, nah. And like I didn't. I had to, like, what the fuck am I there for? I don't even. I barely don't know. Like I just stopped getting out the fucking room. Like I don't know. He goes, you have chlamydia. I said, oh, fuck. I said, oh, don't play with me. He's like, no, for real. You have chlamydia. You need to be more safe out there. And all the girls were like, ew, ew. And I was like, oh, shit. And all the guys are like, oh, you messing with them skunkas, homie. And I was like, ah, dog. Like, and I felt fucking like small. You know what I mean? Like, I went in there with this huge ass ego and I was just like fucking shoulders sunking in, like, oh, shit. And yeah, that's just embarrassing as fuck. Luckily, none of them were my unit. So that shit had followed me. But fuck, that was a fucked up moment, man. And I was just like when I learned about HIPAA, I was like, that's a fucking HIPAA violation. Those motherfuckers are assholes, man. You can't do that shit.
Hey, did they have on educational television? Jerry Springer? They always had that shit on.
Yeah, they had that. Yeah, they had that shit on, and I think that's kind of what, you know, the 90s was a different time, and that, you know, that's what kind of pumped me up too, is because I, you know, 90s kid and shit. So I thought like I'm gonna be edgy, I'm gonna do all that shit, and yeah, that was stupid shit. I shouldn't. It was my fault. It wasn't my fault for him putting my business out there, but I was putting my business out there to begin with. I was putting it out there a little bit too much, and I should have just, you know, been humble about it, and I shouldn't have did all that. But still, that shit was a major HIPAA violation, and that shit was fucked up. You shouldn't be putting someone else's business out there like that.
I think everybody though, when you went to the infirmary, you had to be egotistic. Like everybody was there to bang. Everybody had the flock of hoes, and everybody was like showing off. You know, I used to like going to the infirmary. I think I got pepper sprayed there once because they made the mistake of sitting me on the male side. And there was this dude that I knew who was also like an enemy at the time, right? So I was like, I had this huge fucking ego. I thought I was too like crazier than two motherfuckers. Like I just thought I was the shit. So I looked at him and I was like, this is my time to shine. So I take flight on the guy, but they wouldn't just like restrain you. They pick you up, kick you, fuck you up, and keep spraying you. And it's like, dude, like it was bad. And you know, and of course I deserved, I didn't deserve to be abused the way that the abuse came, but at the same time I kind of signed up for it knowing that, okay, well, this is gonna be a result of my behavior and my consequence or whatever. But yeah, man, the halls were, the 90s were a different time. They actually, you know, they were actually a good time, but the halls was crazy. But you know, what does, you know, going back to like to abuse, what does kind of sad, you know, what's sad to me is that they take, like when you mentioned earlier, like the moms, like the, you know, single moms, like domestic violence, they take some of the most vulnerable people and put them in these like settings. And we just like, not we, but well, yeah, as a society, we've learned to just keep abusing and keep them in the system and keep just fucking with them. And you know, you said something that kind of that kind of hit. They sorry, I lost my when I'm out there, when I'm canvassing, a lot of the women that I encounter, yeah, it's a lot of domestic violence. And even going back to like my adolescent years, a lot of those girls that I was incarcerated with, they all experience some sort of like domestic violence, even with a boyfriend, you feel me? Like we learn to allow, to normalize this type of behavior because we seen it at home. You know, dad was beating up mom when he would come home from work, all coked out and drunk and shit from his construction job. And it's just I kind of grew up like that, but I never really dealt with domestic violence. Like I was either I was an aggressor, and that's what it was.
No, you know, I'm gonna say something that I've never said before. It's crazy too. Well, I definitely grew up around domestic violence. My mom and dad would fight like they were fucking enemies. Like they would throw shit at each other. And you know, I seen my mom almost kill my dad one time. I seen my dad almost kill my mom. And this is the sad part right here. And fuck, hopefully my mom doesn't get mad. I love my mom to death. But there'd be times where my mom, she has a mouth on her. Right? And she could fucking mouth off. And there'd be times where she'd be yelling at my dad, pointing her finger in his face, like just antagonizing him. What he should do is just walk away, right? And I would say, fuck, just bomb on her already, dad. Like, just bomb on her already. Because like I thought like she was like asking for it, you know what I mean? And then he'd fucking hit her and be like, see, that's what happens. Like she doesn't get it. Like she keeps fucking antagonizing this fool. And then a lot of the times for most of my, not most of my life, I'm gonna say for the early part of my life, maybe the first 20 something, maybe 20 years of my life, I had a lack of respect for women because that wasn't taught to me. I thought that I was greater than any woman. And like, cause I always said I'm a G. Like, what the fuck is she? You know what I mean? Like, that's the way I thought about it. And I didn't see until my grandma died that I kind of realized, like, my grandma was a leader of our family. And that's when I kind of realized, like, damn, women could be powerful. Women could empower. Women could be leaders. But for a large part of that, my beginning years, I was okay with domestic violence. You know, and when I heard like songs, and I don't want to blame rap music. I'm not doing that. But when I heard like pimp slap the hoe and shit like that, I was like, hell yeah. Because it kind of reaffirmed what I believed at the time. And I'm just glad you know what though, deep down inside, I had to have known something was wrong with it, because I always said, if I ever get married or have kids, like I'll beat up anyone else. I'll hit any other woman. But if I ever get married or have kids, I'm not going to hit her, because I don't want my kids to go through what I went through. Now I won't put my hands on a woman, period. You know what I mean? But that's how I kind of, so I knew something was wrong with it, but I don't know. I just kind of justified it time and time again.
Yeah, I learned to normalize it. I grew up, my mom and my stepdad would go at it. Like you said, there was fucking blood everywhere. It was actually kind of scary, you know, but then after a while you get used to it, because it's, you know, it's coming, you know? So, as you know, obviously I was always very aggressive too. Like if you looked at me even the wrong way, I was gonna take flight, because that's what it was. And then in my relationships, I got into some very fucking toxic relationships. And earlier, I'm sorry, in my younger years, I learned to deal with certain behaviors that weren't normal. And then I thought it was cute to, oh, fuck him, let me just fucking smack the taste out his mouth. And I think a lot of women, we still do that. And there's nothing cute about abusing someone that you're claiming that you love. Like, that shit is out. You just don't do that. You gotta be mindful of even the way that you speak to one another, because any relationship without respect isn't anything, you know? And so now, of course, as I started to empower myself and as I started to grow, there's no way in hell that I'm going to deal with like certain behaviors or a man calling me a bitch, or that's out. That's not going to happen. But I was getting somewhere with this. Fuck, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry, go ahead. I completely blanked out.
I agree with you 100%. And especially like with calling women, you know, the B word, like that's something that I won't do. Like maybe every once in a while to slip out when I'm saying like something, but not, that's something that I'm trying to be very conscious of. I try not to use that word, especially I've never used it for my wife, and I'm not going to. And somebody even told me one time, like, why could women call each other that, but we can't call? I said, I don't give a fuck what they call each other whatever the fuck they want. I'm not gonna say that shit. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna refer to them as that. That's on them. If they want to speak that way, cool. Like if they want to, because you know, and especially I don't know if it's more big now. I know in the early 2000s, I would always hear that, hey bitch. I'm not sure. I haven't really heard it too much now, but like girls would like call each other that, and people would be like, well, why can't we call them that? It's like, I don't worry about it. It's not my business to say why the fuck I can't do something. But you're right. The way you speak to somebody will kind of like set the path of where that relationship is going.
Yeah. You know what, the one thing that I don't believe in a man hitting a woman, but I don't believe in a woman hitting a man either.
Yeah, exactly.
And I, you know, I have a son and I teach him like, hey, if a woman ever puts her hands on you, you walk away, you don't hit her. But we as women sometimes too, like if you put your hands on a man and expect that man not to hit you back, you put your hands on anybody, they have the right to self-defense.
Yeah.
So and I'm not saying look, if I go ahead and I put my hands on a man, he's gonna fuck me up. He's stronger. I'm sure there's some exceptions, but so we as women too got to be respectful of men. It's not cute to sit there and belittle a man or beat up on a man. And I feel like at times we as women take advantage of that. And it's not cute. It's not cute on any end. Like, as women, as men, as a mature adult, you got to set the tone, and it starts with the way that you speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And that's very important. That's something that I've learned along the way.
Yeah.
And it didn't come easy, you know, because like, again, that to me was weakness. You don't show that sensitive side, and it really got me nowhere. But yeah, I'm glad that I am able to like with my partner, like I'm able to build him. We're able to build one another and educate one another. And late well, not late, but in my 30s, that's where I learned, like, okay, well, this is what a relationship is, not that,
Yeah.
But then again, I don't blame my mother or anyone, because we have the ability to make different choices and to break cycles. And I'm not blaming society. I'm not blaming anyone, but sometimes the environments that you grow up in do impact and do influence the type of relationships that you will have, and the relationships that we're going to show our children to have. I don't want my daughters or my son being disrespected or demeaned, or their self-esteem getting all fucked up, because that's not the way to live. Life is short, and you gotta really make choices to how you want to live.
Yep. And that's why I'm very conscious of that too, because what I try to tell my kids is, you have no excuse to go for somebody who's going to treat you like shit. Because me and your mother, we don't treat each other like shit. Yeah, so you can't say I learned it from you, because now you didn't. Like, so you have to go out there and respect people and be respected. And and going back to the other thing you're saying about putting your, like, a man should never, I agree with you, a man should never put his hands on a woman. I have grown in that area where it's like, nah, it's not acceptable. It's not a fight. Just like a man shouldn't put his hands on a child. Like, no matter what, that shouldn't happen. At the same time, we shouldn't be fighting anybody, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like we just have there's no reason for you to put your hands on somebody unless it's for self-defense. But other than that, we should be at the point where we're grown. We can vocalize what we want what we want. And if it's too much for you at a certain point, just walk away. There's no reason to go out there and hit anybody.
Definitely. Like, and that's something like, please, I'm sitting here and I'm sounding like fucking Dr. Phil at times, but in reality, I'm all kinds of fucked up. So yeah, that's something that I've learned. Discipline is very important. So growing up, I thought discipline was bullshit, and it was difficult, and I didn't want to do this or get up and make my bed. Actually, a lot of that shit came from the system. So I'm glad like I said, it gives you some character, but I learned that discipline is actually a very good thing to have, man. If you ain't got discipline, you ain't got shit. Like, fuck, where was I going? I get all lost. But definitely you have to, I think that you got to sit back at one point. Like, for me, it happened. Like, you gotta sit. Is it really worth, like, even getting online sometimes, right? You see some motherfuckers making the stupidest comments on these, like for me, the political ones get me, and I just want to get on there and troll, right? Because it's fucking funny. So I get on there, and then I'm like, do I really want to, spend my time doing this and waste my energy on this? But also, like, I've learned at times, you don't know what a motherfucker might be going through. What if they're having a horrible day? Whatever it may be that's making their day horrible. Like, if you can build that person with a compliment, with a smile, with just like opening the door for someone, like, it's going to feel good, but it's also going to be gratifying for you. At least for me, it is, like, why be that person that's going to come along and like fuck up somebody's day?
Yeah.
I just don't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah. I got lucky because I learned that shit when I was working for Bank of America. I knew, like, that I'm fucking, like, this is people's money. They're gonna be passionate about that shit, right? Like, if they're missing money or something's going on, like they're not gonna take that shit lightly. So I was able to absorb a lot of that and just be like, whatever, it is what it is. And there were times where I'd be like, motherfucker, man. Like I remember one time this guy got me so fucking pissed off. I wrote his phone number down. I was gonna hit a payphone after work, call him and just start fucking talking shit like, you bitch ass fool. And then by the time I left, by the time I walked out the door, when I started to go home, went in my pocket, seen his number. I was like, oh shit, I forgot about this. Crumbled it up and threw it away. Like, it's not even worth it, man.
You know what happened to me one time? I was out with like a good friend of mine, and we were out drinking, and my friend was like, oh, drop me off at my girls. I was like, cool, I'll drop you off at your girls. Now, this is a friend that I've known for over like 20 years. I have no type of interest in this guy, right? So I go and I drop him off, and then his girlfriend comes. And first of all, I shouldn't have been fucking drinking and driving. And then his girlfriend comes, and I'm drunk as fuck. I don't even know how I'm driving. That's how dysfunctional this is. I was young, and I got my ass beat. Her and her sister jumped me, and it was bad. It was bad. And then for a long time, then I got the chance to run into one of the girls, right? So one of my good friends calls me. She's like, hey, my niece overdosed. Can you go with me to get her stuff? Her niece had overdosed, so they fucking stripped her down naked, I guess, to get her in the shower so she can wake up, but she didn't wake up. So they threw her outside the trap house, and they stole all her things or whatever. So
up, man.
Yeah, it was. So I ran into that girl at the hospital. And I was like, man, I'm gonna flight this bitch right now, because it was in the back of my mind. Just how you felt about that staff.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, because they got me good, And when I was about to like hit her, she was like, oh wait, my hand really hurts. And I was like, what? I just like and I was like, I should just bitch slap her, because that's very disrespectful to just like bitch slap somebody, But then I was like, is this really worth it? Like, here's this girl struggling with addiction. I think the girl that I was gonna that had jumped me, she was addicted to heroin at the time. I think she still is. She's homeless. Both kids have been removed from her care. So, and by then I knew all of this about her, because you investigate motherfuckers. You're like, I'm gonna get you,
You get the rundown on this motherfucker.
Yeah, you yeah, exactly. So, but once I thought about it, I was like, damn, this girl's doing bad, man. I'm gonna fucking hit this girl. If she bleeds, I'm gonna catch hepatitis and shit. Now, I'm not saying she had hepatitis, but I just learned that hurt people sometimes hurt other people. And I learned that I've been hurt, and I get it. But I would rather heal other people rather than, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to feed into that. I believe that, like when I talk about the system and stuff like that, and how in a way it is designed for us to fucking fail and to fall into to the cracks. And I can't sit here and say, oh no, it's by choice, because sometimes it is by design. It is by design. They take people from certain populations, and they'll use you however they choose to use you. But at the same time, even if we got to work harder, even if we got to run faster, even if we got to go harder than Todd from down the street, that's what we got to do to get ahead. So it comes down to a choice. And I just choose not to be that person. And it's very difficult sometimes, even when someone cuts you off and you're like, well, fuck you, bitch, road rage. But it's like, it's just, I've gotten to a place, where I'm at peace, where I'm like, fuck it. They're probably, they probably need to get to work because they're running late.
Yeah.
So, but that didn't come easy, like trying to process, like being empathetic, because when I was in YA, they always talked about empathy, and I was like, yeah, I'm empathetic and shit, but I really wasn't.
Yeah, you have to learn it. I had to learn that shit like a motherfucker.
Yeah. So yeah, and like you mentioned, at the bank, people do take their money very. Hey, remember that lady that noticed she was being defrauded by a penny?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Even worse is there was people who and I would hate to hear this. They'd get like a 1 cent finance charge on their credit card. So I worked the credit card for a long time. And they'd say, I want this removed. And they'd come all crazy. I said, whatever, man, it's a penny. I'll give a fuck. I'll give it back to you, right? And they'd say, it's not the penny, it's the principle. I was like, fuck your principles. I wouldn't even call. Honestly, for a penny, I said, that's a
Yeah.
lot of fucking work, man. I'm not gonna wait on because sometimes they bank. I don't know if you ever call Bank of America, and I probably burn my bridges with them. I talk a gang of shit about them, but they fucking have long ass hold times. There's no way I'm waiting on hold. I'd rather just close my motherfucking account than wait on hold for 40 minutes to get a fucking penny reversed.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, I don't know if it was Bank of America. I don't know what institution it was, but the dude that was taking the pennies defrauded for I don't know how many fucking millions off a
Yeah.
penny for a couple of years. And I think he only did like a year or something like that, which it's like, okay, a couple mil for a year, I can do that, you know?
Yeah.
And then,
They probably
and
snatched all
then
that shit up though.
yeah, and then he left. But definitely like yeah, it's a trip though, and it feels good to like sit there and talk. But I feel like people do need to open up about
Mhm.
abuse, and you know, sometimes it's very difficult too. Like when you vocalize, like, "Hey, I've been abused," or "This happened to me," or that, and the family doesn't believe you.
Yeah.
Or you know what really gets to me that sometimes because we as raza sometimes tend to be like, um, even the women, like we got that machismo, right? So we would rather hide what happened, like if you know, and protect the predator rather than believe the 7-year-old or the 6-year-old. And I think that's a big problem too. And I feel that we need to shine light on that because it's not cool. Like we're fucking up people, we're fucking up future generations if this doesn't get brought to light, if we don't build around those people, because it is embarrassing sometimes to say, oh hey, by the way, my uncle touched my thigh or whatever it may have been. Like for me it was not a big deal, but that was just my experience. There's people that have some really fucked up
Yeah.
experiences, you know.
Yeah.
And but yeah, definitely even being mindful the way you talk to your kid, because sometimes we do it and it, you know, like I for me, you know what came from abuse for me too? Attachment issues.
Mm.
So, and I hate to say this, but when my children, when I first had children, like I've never been like, I've always been on top of their needs and I've always provided and I've always worked, but I had an issue with attachment. So I knew it was my child and I loved my child and I wanted to make sure that motherfucker went to private school, as annoying as he was or she was, you know, you want the best from. But I did have that like attachment issue where you don't really care about some of the choices that you're making. Like for me, like I was still very involved in like in hustling because, well, I like fast money and I like easy money, and it's very difficult to raise 2 kids when you're on your own, and it you know, and you're over here barely fucking making it through. So that's something that I had to navigate with too, like knowing that a family needs to be a family, even if there's only one parent. Like that one parent being there can be crucial to that person falling into addiction, not necessarily just being incarcerated, but addiction or you know, prostitution is a big one that I've
Yeah.
encountered with the young ladies. And I don't know, like to me it's a very uh important subject to expose and to speak about, you know.
No, that's crazy. Like that you bring that up because I never thought about that at all. And you know, I haven't put it too much. I'm probably gonna put too much of my business out there now. But I'm very clingy when it comes to my wife and kids. I was like, hey guys, what are you doing? And sometimes it's like they're like, hey, get off me already. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. Maybe it has to do with that. The fact that there was so much chaos and abuse growing up that I just cling to them. Like I don't want. Like, I always think about that. I always think like I don't want this moment to end. That's what I always think about. I don't want this moment to end. And it's like these are the good times. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's crazy that you bring that up because I'm looking like thinking at my life now. Like that probably has a lot to do with why I'm so fucking clingy and annoying sometimes.
No, I had a very detached like experience with them. Not to say that I never like hugged them, or I always did, but psychologically, like I've always been detached from people.
Mm.
And you could be like my righteous friend, and I know that I'm loyal to the person, or but there was just like it's kind of weird. I don't even know how to describe the feeling, but you're just so fucking detached from what's going on because you're so afraid of like, well, what if I lose this person?
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism because we lose so many people to jails, to the streets, of getting killed, that it's like you have to prepare yourself for another event like that coming up.
Yeah, so I dealt with that. But one day, my son, I was driving, I'm over here, yelling at the next car and shit. And he's sitting there and he's talking all kinds of great wonders about somebody. And I'm just listening to him. And then I'm distracted. But then he says, yeah, mom, so that's what, he was describing me. So then I looked at him and I was like, in my head, I was like, oh shit, he thinks highly of me,
Yeah.
And I think that at that point, I was like, you know what? I got to set a better example. Like, I never brought negative things. Well, I have in a sense, but I've never like wanted them around crime or around gangs or, certain things that are more evident than others, because with certain behaviors that I've had, they haven't been the healthiest, but when he was like, when he said that to me, it just something clicked. Like, you know what, man? Like, I guess I was grateful. And I was filled with pride, and that's when I knew, you know what, I got to step it up. These motherfuckers got to go to college. They got to, and even if they don't, I'm still going to tell them that they do, because I know that, and it's changing, there's many changes that are, society, it's ever evolving, but I just don't want them to fall into the same type of lifestyle that I did. And now it's even worse. Like, when you and I were growing up, like it was gang shit. It was people shooting people. It was like, I think we caught like the last of the what gangs were, or maybe even in the early 2000s, people caught some of that, because like now, like I'm out on the streets and I'm canvassing and I'm seeing what the fuck's going on. I feel it's more of an addiction issue.
Yeah.
Like you used to get beat up if we found out you were like heroined out or smoking crack or whatever it was. And now it's acceptable. Now it's acceptable to be homeless and on a good one. And it's things within, not, and of course, this is not to knock anybody, and I'm sure it's different everywhere. And there's many different types of individuals, even in the lifestyle, but I have seen that homelessness was not what it is today. Homies were not on drugs like they are today. And definitely prisons, I think they've lessened up, though. They're letting people go now and giving people second chances, which is a good thing, because our fucking taxes are through the roof because of mass incarceration,
Yeah.
So any which way that whatever attitude you do take towards that, at the end of the day, when you got 20% of the world's population incarcerated, there's something fucking off with that judicial system.
Yeah, another thing maybe in a future episode we'll talk about, because I always tell people, and even though I think they are destructive, I still think that drugs and prostitution should be legal. And people always go at me, they look at me, they look at me crazy, and they destroy homes and this and that. I said, yeah, they destroy families. And I said, look, I don't think it should be that easy to go to jail. That's my take on it. It should not, to take away somebody's freedom, it should be a lot more difficult than it currently is. That should be a jail. As designed, how it's designed today, should be kind of like a last step kind of thing. You know what I mean? For the worst offenders.
With you on that, because like well, let's just take the pill epidemic, the opioids. Now all of a sudden, after so many years of giving these motherfuckers boats of pills, now they want to it's an epidemic, because I think it's more of like, not to sound fucked up, but I think it's more of a white people problem with the designer drugs, because they got, many of those communities have the money to purchase these type of designer drugs. So it's an epidemic. And now they're restricting how many pills are being administered out. But now fentanyl is a fucking issue, and it's killing a lot of people. As one of my good friends said, you say it like a white person, say it like a G. It's Fenty. And I'm like, what the fuck? Anyhow, why not allow them to go purchase whatever it is that they're into, rather than going into a neighborhood that's fucking sketchy where they might get in, they might end up getting robbed and beat up, or even end up losing their life over some shit like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise anyone to go fucking smoke meth because, well, if your teeth are meth, you probably want to keep your fucking teeth. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we all have different views. But yeah, I'm with you on that. And prostitution should be legalized because, well, it's, what is it, like the oldest form of
Oldest career. So I forgot. Yeah, something. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't want my any of my male family members to partake in those type of behaviors. But if they do, or if they choose to, like maybe even putting people like sex workers, I believe it is now, having them like get checked every so often, because obviously STDs, HIV, if you're gonna sleep with someone, at least let it be more of a not healthy, but of a
safer
environment. Yeah. Not only them, but they deserve protection too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people frowned upon them, but I feel that who the fuck am I to judge somebody else, first of all? And yeah, they do deserve protection. A lot of them get beat up. A lot of them go missing.
Get killed, have pimps slapping them up. Yeah, they could do without, like, if you legalize it, they can have safe areas where they can work and they don't have to worry about any of that. Again, it's crazy because it all circles back to abuse. Mm-hmm. The system we have right now is designed in a way where maybe it doesn't promote abuse, but it doesn't do anything to deter it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, no, I'm for legalizing. I think Amsterdam has
Amsterdam has it,
legal.
And Portugal has legalized or decriminalized drugs, and they've seen their addiction rates drop.
The only thing with that, right? So my going back, one of my kids, my son's a skater, so I go sometimes to like parks to pick him up. And the other day I was at Richie Valens Park right there in Pacoima, and these motherfuckers are smoking pookie out, not the kids,
shit. Yeah.
But there's a homelessness encampment up against the freeway, I don't know what you call you know what I mean, the side of the fucking freeway. So they're just posted, they're smoking, like fucking barbecuing with pookie out there and shit. And I look and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because at this point, it's like a public public safety thing, right? Mm-hmm. So then I called I think it was Foothill Division, and I wasn't calling on them on them smoking, but I was like, hey, why is there people out here in the open smoking like that? Like, there's fucking kids here, and not only the skater kids, because they're probably smoking weed over there, but the younger kids that are running around, like, what, fucking syringes on the floor and shit. So that is no longer a crime. I also feel like there should be places where they can at least do it safely. Like, certain things should be decriminalized, but at the same time, not like that. So that's a challenge that I face with that.
Yeah. I just think with the decriminalization, we will have the opportunity to treat it more as a public health crisis rather than a criminal crisis. But I think that is an interesting topic we should get to on another episode.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think, with that, I think we should wrap it up. We've touched on a lot of great topics, and we'll be back again next week. Again, I'm Incredible Javier.
And I'm Yahaira, and I just want to say one last thing. Like, I heard this on an HBO special, and the man said, any setback is a setup for a great comeback. So we determine what we want to do with the cards we were handed. And I'm Yahaira Quiroz.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I appreciate that. And with that, we out. Peace.
Peace.